Hello, it's Rebecca from Rebecca Ink. Today we are going to draw a peacock. What you need to join in is gather up a pencil, a marker, an eraser, and a piece of paper. Today I might suggest that you have two pens, one thicker and one thinner, just for detail's sake. Okay, we are going to draw this peacock. You're going to start with your pencil. I am going to use a marker so that you can see me better. Let me move my guide and we'll get started. Now you are going to start just a little bit up from the center of your paper. Now our peacock is going to rest at the bottom and be kind of cut off. So we're creating a dynamic composition. So what we're going to do is just shy of the center of your paper, over to the left, we're going to start with a nice circle right about here for the head of our peacock. So you're using your pencil, you're going to get your whole arm going from your shoulder. You're going to go around and around and around, and once you get that shape going, gently and lightly set your pencil down. See how nice and light my marks are? Oh goodness, I've got my sound on, my notifications. Hold on one sec, I'll see if I can turn that off. Sorry about that, guys. All right. I have this precarious setup with my iPad, and then on top of that, I've got my cell phone doing a time lapse. So, okay, notifications are off. Round and round you go, you're going to get a nice circle shape there. Now, inside that circle, we are going to do several ovals. They have this kind of part, if you will. If we compare it to people, it would be like the part on their hair. We're going to draw an oval that lives right about here to create that part that they have. I'm going to go around and around, and it's going to stick off the back end of that circle just ever so slightly. And right next to that, I'm just going to draw a hint of another one for the other side. It's like a little arc right there. Plant your wrist and go back and forth. Create a little arc at the end of that. All right, next up we have, let's do their beak. Coming off of their face, their beak is, it's going to come off about to here, and it's going to be a triangular shape. But instead of drawing ovals to get the roundedness, we're just going to draw a triangle that has some arcs to it. So what you're going to do is plant your wrist about this far away from your circle and set your pencil down on that oval you just drew and move your hand in that natural arc shape it's going to go in. Back and forth you go, giving it that shape. Now from the tip of that, we're going to head back into that circle. So plant your wrist again, move your hand in that natural arc it's going to go, and you're going to surprise yourself with what you can draw there. Very good. Inside that triangular shape, we're not going to draw this end piece here. If you were to draw the triangle, it would have like a line right there. We're not going to draw that part because we're not going to need it. Inside this beak, let's give a few little details. I'm going to add one little mimicking line right like that. It's just going to kind of follow that arc we just drew. And then up from that, we're going to add an oval for their nostril. The oval is small enough, I'm just using my fingers, but it's that same idea that you go around and around and around and around. It's not going to be perfect, but if you squint your eyes, the overall shape you're getting when you go around and around is an oval. And then above that, we're going to give a nice little mimicking line. Plant your wrist and just do a nice little arc right above that. Let's go back into the face. We're going to do a series of ovals here to help us get some cool shapes they have in their face. This first oval is going to live right next to that oval we drew. It's going to be right about here. And then there's going to be another one right about here. They're not very big, so you're planting your wrist and you're just using your fingers to get those shapes. Now if we go up this oval that we drew to kind of create the part in their hair, we're going to go just about to the center of that, and we're going to draw a circle. The circle will be their eye. It's going to be about this big. Now I'm planting my wrist and I'm air drawing it, and then when I get the shape, I set my pencil down. If you've never drawn with me before, We use these shapes as guides. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to be nice and light and loose, and you're just going to allow them to happen. You're not going to erase anything or stress about it, okay? I promise in the long run you're going to like what we do. Inside that circle, we're going to draw a slightly smaller circle. So get your pencil going. Around and around you go. Get that circle. It's not perfect, but the overall shape is there, and that's what we're looking for. Inside that circle, one more little circle for a nice little highlight for our peacock's eye. All right, now, on a lot of animals, we'll draw an arc over their eye to give them an eyelid. For the peacock, we're going to draw an arc, but it's going to start at the base of this oval, arc over the eye, and back down. Just like that. You're planting your wrist and you're arcing your hand in that natural motion it's going to go in. And then touch it back to where you first started and go just slightly above and head toward the beak. Just like that. All right. Drawing in, they have some really pretty white highlights on their faces. So that's what we're adding in now. Now let's go back here on this oval. We're going to touch our pencil down just past that arc we just drew. And we're going to draw kind of a nice arc headed toward the beak again, just like that. Nice little arc. If it helps you, you can rotate your paper, plant your wrist, and draw that arc. That's what I would do if I weren't doing this for you, but I don't want to mess up my camera angle, so I'm not doing that. So now we're going back up on that oval, draw a nice little line over, and add in another arc headed toward the face. They aren't all the exact same shape, so if yours isn't the same shape as mine, don't worry about it. It's just like that hint. So these, if you were coloring this in, these would be white, just to give it some added detail. All right, let's go down the neck next. We're going to add in several ovals for our neck. Their necks are very strong, and they go down into their bodies. They have to be strong to hold all those feathers. So we're going to draw an oval that comes up into our face. And it's going to be about this wide. Now this oval is large enough you can get your whole arm going from your shoulder and go around and around and around. And then we're going to add in, like I like to do on a lot of drawings, some connecting triangles. Now let's add in the back one. We've got this circle on for the head and then this oval. I'm just going to add that connecting triangle right there. If you were to draw the whole shape, it would be this. But we really just need that back line. Same thing down here, we're going to add in a connecting triangle there, just fill in that little gap with a diagonal line. That triangle is right here. Can you see it? Give me a thumbs up if you get what I'm saying. All right, moving on, we have a little bit larger oval, and it's going to be about this big. So let's get our whole arm going from our shoulder and draw in that larger oval, just like that. As their necks go down, they get wider, and they have some really beautiful muscles in them. And we're going to add in that connecting triangle, and it's going to almost connect up to that other triangle we had. Same thing back here, connecting triangle. We have one more shape on the body of the neck of our peacock, and it's going to be another kind of oval that lives just off to the back. It's going to be about this big. You're going to get your whole arm going from your shoulder to draw that in. All right, we've got the head, we've got the neck. Now let's do their body. Before you get to all these beautiful feathers, they have this section of their body, maybe it would be like on their back. It's going to come up in an oval and be about this big. So let's go ahead and draw in a nice big oval, tilted off to the back. Going to get your whole arm going, and that oval is going to cut into the neck and go down to the base of the neck that we drew there and back up and out. Very good. Okay, now let's give ourselves some guides so we know what's going to get pushed in front and what's going to get pulled behind. We're going to make that oval that we drew on the neck, we're just going to make this section a little bit darker. And then that oval we drew for the base of the neck, we're going to make that section a little bit darker. just so we know, because we're going to get lots of shapes going here and it could get confusing. So give yourself that guide, make that just a little bit darker. Let's go up to the top of our peacock's head. The top of their heads, they have these little feathers that stick up. They're going to come straight up, and then at the end there's a little poof of color. How we're going to get this, we are going to touch our pencil down. See these tips of these ovals that we drew? We're going to touch our pencil down and just flick out, just like that. And they're going to end up being about the same length. It's okay if they're not 100% the same length, but you want them to be close. And we're going to fill in that area just about like that. So you're just kind of going around the edges of those ovals, around the very tips. At the ends of those lines that we just drew, we're going to draw a little line like this. Just kind of flick your pencil at the end of those, creating another little guide for ourselves. All right, off the ends of those, a bunch of touches and flicks. Now if you just want to do a few with your pencil so you can get the idea and then leave the rest for your marker, you could do that. In fact, let's just do that because it's going to be a lot to like draw and then redraw. So we're just going to give a hint. That's what's going to happen on the ends of every single one of those. If you wanted to do your guide and then go back and fill this in with colored pencil, these are a beautiful royal blue color, okay? All right, let's add in a few details on the body. Now the body, we are just seeing this portion right here. So we've got our neck. This is all one color on the peacock. Now we have the body. I'm going to switch to a different piece of paper so you can see the shapes that we're going to have going on there. So if you imagine this is the body. This part is covered up by the neck. And this section here is what we're dealing with, okay? We're going to have crescent shapes that go all the way up this. Imagine if you took a bunch of cucumber slices and you laid them out on a platter like this, and then you laid out, actually you'd probably start up here, but then you tucked in some behind there and they stack like this, and you're just seeing the edges of those slices, but you know that they're round. And you're going to kind of stagger them, almost like if you're building with Legos and you want a strong structure, you're going to stagger them. They're going to overlap. They're not going to be built out one after the other. They stagger like this. Inside those shapes, you have a few shapes. So this is like an enlarged version of a few of those. We've got that crescent shape, then we've got a mimicking line. Now where they meet up on the peacock, you have these little lines that come out. To get these shapes, you would just draw your crescent shapes, add in your mimicking line, and then where they meet up, right here, you would just touch and flick your pencil out, just like that. Okay, so that whole shape gets filled up with these crescents. Now you have some choices you can make. I'm going to switch back to my guide for a second. I filled in, let me see if you can see that. I filled this whole shape in with pencil with those crescents. And then as I was drawing over it with my marker, I decided I didn't want to trace over every single one of them because it gets to be monotonous for one to do, and for two it kind of takes away from the beauty of it. So I decided I would just highlight a few of them. So let's go ahead and do that on our drawing. We're going to imagine all of our cucumber slices lined up here. I'll put this here so you can see, stacked up. So let's just draw a few of them. We're going to do like a little crescent there, a little crescent there, and then one over top. Now give those few your details. Mimicking lines, touch and flick up. Let's add in a few more. Crescent, crescent. You decide however many you want to have in your drawing. I'm just going to do, I like to do things in uneven numbers. It is said that uneven numbers are more appealing to look at. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to do 6, go for it. If you want to do 7, 9, 12, 11, however many of those you want to do, it's that basic shape of 2 crescents and then the third one where you see a little bit more. Then go ahead and add in your details. If you decide to do more than I'm doing, you can pause me and add in as many as you want. If you want to fill in that whole body with them, go for it. I didn't have the patience for it, and I decided it wouldn't be as dynamic to look at. So you think about it, or maybe you do this drawing more than once. You decide. How do you want to do that? Then when you get done adding that mimic, go ahead and touch and flick from the center there and add in those little lines. All right, so that's this part of their body. Off of this part of their body comes those amazing, amazing feathers. So we're going to draw, coming out from this oval, lines that go all the way out and fill up our page. And they're just going to touch that oval and head out all the way around and feather out like that. So let's start at the top. You're going to touch your pencil down to that oval and lightly flick it out as far as you can get it to go. And I'm going to stagger mine about this far apart, touching and flicking your pencil. Follow that curve around, and as you go down, imagine gravity pulling those feathers downward. You may want to have a paper underneath. I'm drawing on my desk. Okay, headed back up the other way. They're going to stand up, and then they're going to start to come down as you come around. Okay, so touch, drag, touch, drag, touch, drag. That is definitely a whole arm moving. I'm setting my pencil down, and then I'm just dragging my hand the direction I want it to go in. Nice and light, because now we're going to go over top of our face and the things that we just drew. Nice and light. Very good. Around that whole oval. Now you see how I've got that oval going into the body? I'm still going to touch and drag out from there so I get my angles right. All the way down my paper. I'm staggering them about 1/4 inch apart, maybe a little bit closer. That part's not super specific, but around you go. Now on this part, we won't see any of that. Our face and neck are going to live in front of that. Okay? So get your lines going. Now, on those lines, I'm going to switch back to my guide here, my other guide. On those lines, so imagine this is one of your lines. They have, every so often, this shape. How we're going to get that shape is, on our line, we're going to draw an oval. Get your whole arm going. The base of that oval will have a little triangle. Inside that oval, we'll have a smaller oval. Just like that. Inside that oval, then we have this shape. My marker got darker than or scooched in a little bit. Anyways, it's gonna end up being a series of 3 circles. So you're gonna have 1 circle. Get it nice and dark so you can see it. Inside that circle toward the top, you're gonna have another circle. And then just below that, another circle. Now, if you were to draw over this with marker, let me move my drawing over. If you're drawing over this with your marker, it's going to be triangle onto the edge of that circle, picking your favorite line, just using that as a guide for yourself, back onto the triangle. Then inside that, you're going to do that smaller oval. And inside that, the whole big oval, whole big circle. And then inside that, around and around and around. Now this circle inside here, you probably want to have it a little bit more up toward the top. So it would end up like this. So that inside shape is going to be circle around that top circle, around the top of the bottom circle, and around the edge of that. So this would be the one circle here. This would be the other circle there. Can you see those shapes? I'm complicating it. Okay. Then on that spine, you have all of these little lines that come off, and you're just simply going to touch and flick off of those, and then onto the beautiful part of the feather, and curve your lines up and around like that. And then when you get back to that line, touching and flicking off of that. And when you go on this side, you're going to go up and around this direction and back out. Okay, so because there are so many details, let me switch back to my drawing here. Make sure I've got it lined up so you can see. We're just going to do a handful of these, and then you'll draw in the details and the little touches and flicks. Okay, so you decide. Off the base of this oval, I'm going to place a few. Now these feathers, they're going to be about this big, so we're planting our wrist, drawing some nice arcs off of that. So our cucumber slices are all on the center, and now we're on to that bigger detail in the feather. Then I'm just going to pick randomly on one of the lines where I want that next one to be, and I'm going to draw a little oval. Round and round I go, just planting my wrist and using my fingers because they're smaller here. I'm just adding in the ovals where I want them to be. Yours don't have to be exactly where mine are. Just kind of squint your eyes, decide how many of these details do you want. Sometimes there's more than one on the feather, quite often actually. So just kind of stagger those so they're not right next to each other. Decide where you want to have them, plant your wrist, go round and add them in. You're going to do that all the way around. It's a lot to draw. Then where you've got the face, you're not going to have any there. So we've got our details on our feathers, or we're just kind of sketching in where we want them to live. Now after you draw those ovals, you'll add in at the base of them that little connecting triangle down to that line, just like that. On all of them. All right, I won't bore you with doing it on all of them, but let me do a few where you can see really well. So I add that triangle at the base, then inside I'm going to do another oval, nice and light, and then inside that I'm going to do a circle with a circle with a circle. Okay, now we're going to switch to our marker and start tracing over the things that we want and erasing so you can get your drawing going. Let's start. I'm using a Sharpie. You use whatever you have that you can't erase, okay? And we're going to start up on the head here. We're going to go around this little part, I was calling it, down onto the beak, and stop when you get to that next oval. Let's go up to that other arc. We're going to go around this arc and then around the circle and stop when we get to the beak. Now around we go and stop. Let's go down onto that beak. Plant your wrist, trace over those arced lines that you drew. Same thing on the bottom, cutting back into that circle. Let's add in our details. We're going to add in that line along the base. We're going to draw in the oval and that other little arc above that. Now for these ovals, we're really just using the base of those for a detail on our beak. Our beak kind of tucks up onto those ovals. We're not going to draw any more of them. Actually, on this bottom one, I lied. we're going to go just a little bit around just to give a little hint of a shadow. Now for these white lines that I was telling you about, these colored markings that they have, we're going to trace right over all of those, that arc that goes above the eye and heads towards the beak, and then trace over that mimicking line you did behind it. Now let's do this back one, where we had the arc that goes under the eye, headed toward the beak. Write a little bit of that oval over and touch it together. Now for the eye, we're going to trace around every circle that we drew there. We're going to go around the big one first. Try not to sketch, sketch, sketch. Try to just draw right over what you drew. You can do it. I know you can. And around the middle one and around the little one. You can go ahead and fill in that eye, leaving your highlight. All right, now let's move on. We're going to go from the beak around that circle, headed into the neck, just like this, and stop right about there. Then we're going to come back up where we had those lumps, the little bumps on the top of the head. We're going to ride down that circle onto the connecting triangle, oval, connecting triangle, oval. Let's do that much. Down that, around the circle, connecting triangle, oval, connecting triangle, and then around that body oval, just like that. Let's come back up here. We're going to do connecting triangle, oval, and around. Connecting triangle, oval, and around. Now, like we did yesterday with our pronghorn, if you didn't check that out, check that one out. It came out cool. We're going to add in some shadow here. We're just going to kind of lightly, or loosely is the word I'm looking for, go over this area and give it a little shadow. Back and forth is how I'm doing it. I'm a little careful when I come up to that circle, and I'm making it smaller as I go back. Nice and loose. It doesn't matter if it's all filled in. It just gives it like a hint of a shadow. And then head down the front of that body a little ways, just like that. Nice and loose. If you go further than you meant to, just extend that oval out a little bit. Plant your wrist and make that line a little thicker. Same thing on the back of the neck. Where those ovals meet up, and we had that connecting triangle, we're going to start there and shade just a little bit. We're going to get a little thicker when we come to this part, and then a little thinner again. So follow along, back and forth. Just a little hint, and we're going to get a little thicker right here. Kind of almost creating like a triangular shape there with our shading. And down we go, just like that. Let's go up to these beautiful little, I don't know, now I keep wanting to call them quills, but these feathers that are off the top of their head. It's almost like a crown. We're going to touch our marker down and flick it up over our pencil lines. Now if it doesn't match up exactly, that's okay, because we're going to erase our pencil lines. And we'll just have our marker lines, so no one will ever know that they didn't match up. At the end of your lines, touch and flick that base so we know where to draw the next detail. Very good. Now, off of those lines that we just drew, touch and flick up. Now, if you wanted to switch over to your colored pencil, these would be blue. Bright, brilliant blue. Gorgeous. Now, on the peacock, these all kind of live about the same place in a line. Mine are kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. That's okay. It gives my drawing some character. It makes it mine. Yours is going to make yours yours. And it's going to be unique to what you drew. And that's cool. All right. Let's move on to the body. We're going to just highlight those crescent shapes that we drew. Let's go ahead and trace exactly over what you had. If you decided to fill up your whole body, take a second, look at it. Do you want to draw over all of those, or do you just want to highlight a few? If you filled it all in and now you're deciding, you can give some of them more detail than the others. You can just give a hint of some arcs like this if you wanted to. You decide how much or how little detail you want there. For the sake of time, I'm just doing a few. I also think it's going to be more interesting to look at if there's just a few. Okay, so imagine we had that filled in as far as you had it. I'm just going to add in a few extra little crescent shapes here. It gives it some interest to have a little bit of both going on. Now, next up, you would do your circles. I'm just going to do a few because you don't have all day for me to fill this in with you. What we're going to do is trace over the triangle, go around that oval, back to the triangle. Now you've sketched in, when you go to do this, sketch all of that stuff in and then trace over. Now inside that, we're going to draw over that inside oval. Then we're going to go around the circle, cut in, go up, go back. So that shape on the inside traces like that. So if you wanted to draw it like that, you could. But it is the circle around the circle, cut in, go over, cut back up. So the shape you see is this, right here. You see that? All right, and then when you color it in, this is one color, this is a different color. I'm forgetting now that this is bright blue and I think this is green. I don't know. Take a look at them if you're coloring it in so you know the colors. Now, up that feather, so I would go around each one of these ovals first because you want those to read in front. Then I would go back and along the spine of your feather, touch and flick. Now remember at the beginning when I said you may want to have 2 different size markers. This is why. If you want this to be lighter and not be quite as heavy of a mark, you would switch over to your other marker. I've got a skinnier one here. I'm just going to switch over to that. And you could do this up. See how that creates some contrast there? And then I would go around that pretty part, go up that direction on that side, switch directions, up and around the pretty part there. Then straight up from there, off to the right. I'm pointing it off to the right and angling it up toward the top of my paper. Same thing over here. Now these, they can be long. You can go over them a few times if you want. I'm getting up around that next oval and I'm going around it. Same thing over here, around it, and back up. You would do that on every spine. Now you can also decide, just like I decided down here it was too much, you can do every other one if you want. If your lines, if you flick them out and they're bigger and they're like this, do every other one. You decide how thick you want that to look, and then make it, like, draw it accordingly. Okay, so you have all the things you need to draw your peacock. I'm going to switch back, and if you want to erase the body part with me, and then you can finish up the quills all on your own, calling them quills. Again, don't know the technical terms for all this stuff, but you're going to steady your paper, grab your eraser, and go ahead and erase your guides that we created on the face and the neck and the body. And I will leave you to your feathers to create all your feathers. I'm super excited to see these. Are you going to color them in? Are you going to do them in black and white? What are you going to do? It's going to be exciting to see. So make sure you send them to me in the comments below. Katie and Anna Browning wanted to draw this, so thank you, Katie and Anna, for the suggestion. If you have something you would like to draw, I need some suggestions for next week. So send me what you want to draw. If you want to say happy birthday or congratulations on your graduation to somebody, let me know that too, and I'll pass along those messages happily. I'm going to go ahead and erase in my body since I drew everything I wanted to draw there. I'm just going to erase all of those crescent shapes I'm holding down my paper. If I've got a darker line, I go over it a few times to get that nice and erased. Make sure you study your paper. It's a bummer if you crinkle it. If you're looking for some more things to do today, you can find me, Rebecca Ink, I-N-K, because I like to draw with ink. You can find me online on Facebook, Rebecca Ink, I-N-K, as well as on YouTube. And online, I have a website, RebeccaInk.com. You can find all the drawings people have been sending me. If you click on the Interact tab, you'll see all of those. And you can also find some downloadable coloring pages. I've got some downloadable coloring pages that I created from our drawing tutorials, which is really fun. So you may see something that you drew, and then I took a day and turned it into a coloring page. So that might be something fun for you to do as well. They're $1. If you color them in, send them to me. I'd love to see what you did. And you can find me on Instagram at Rebecca Inkabink. Go ahead, take time now to fill in all of your feathers. I will put up on Facebook, I will put up a picture of a detail of the feather if you want to see that. All right, thank you for drawing with me today. I had fun. I hope you had fun. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.